All right. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Smudcast number 571. Cowboy Bebop is an overrated mess. Very bold words there from someone I've never heard of before, and I don't know who this is. I have done zero research. Mark just showed me this video today, and I jumped on it, and I said, we're doing it. So
I actually just stumbled upon this video on the suggestions by Lolly, and I was like, yeah, we gotta cover this one.
yeah.
I only watched like a few minutes of this, and yeah, it's just so much potential. The other fact is that I have been working on a review of the live action for quite some time now. I'm halfway done. And like I kept rewatching Cowboy Bebop for the review, so like I know like quite a few things about it.
Yeah.
So it is kind of bold statement to make. And the worst of all is that like I'm not gonna spoil anything. Let's just jump into it. I would say.
Okay, because I've jumped around saying Bebop is my all-time favorite to Monster is my all-time favorite, and I finally, this year I said Bebop is probably, just in general is my favorite when I think about it. So for this guy to say it's overrated, you really, really have to know what makes it overrated, what is the element of, or what is the criteria you're using to say, okay, it requires some praise, it requires some acclaim, it did this right, it did that right, but then you have to have a really good reason what knocks it down a few pegs. And
what should be the actual rating? Because when you say it's overrated,
right,
then you mean
people say Cowboy Bebop's perfect, it's amazing. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's brilliant. I think it's amazing and fun and all kinds of things. But I still put it in the 9 out of 10 sort of category. That's how good it is. So if he thinks it's like, it should really be an 8.9, I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, how strict is your criteria, sir? So,
well, it's like also it's overrated mess, which means that like it's also not only overrated, but it's also like bad. It's
yeah,
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, so this plays into the nature of Bebop, how its story is told, and the episodic concept of multiple threads, multiple characters, and you going, hey, what happened to Vicious? What happened to Spike? And that's not what a Cowboy Bebop is all about. That's part of it.
No, it's like an episodic adventure. Like I would say, like of course, like Spike is the main character, like the lead character for this story. But like we get like equal time for the trio. Like Ed is also there and Ein, but like I would say like they are more like supportive characters than anything else.
Yeah, I would say they're secondary. Jet, Spike, Faye jumps in and out between relevance and focus now and again.
Yeah.
But it's mostly Spike and his antics and his escapades. And there's only 4 or 5 episodes that focus on Spike's main plot, which is, I guess, the main thrust of the show.
Correct. That is indeed. Yeah.
That's probably why this person thinks it's a mess, because there's not enough plot. So, and that's a fair assessment if you know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, because a story like this is it's when it gives it a sense of we're really just cruising around while I don't know how to solve this problem that I want to solve because I don't know.
That's a really good way to
get to.
Yeah, and the theme of, being able to escape your past is sort of everywhere. Every episode has this sort of melancholic waiting feeling where it's like, what am I doing? What's going on? I know what I have to do right now, like in this moment for the bounty, but I got like shit behind me that's catching up. And that's
that's how like, the first episode starts. Is that like Spike sees like this couple like Asimov and Katerina trying to escape the backward planet to start a new life by selling all that red eye, and Spike sees that and emphasizes with Katerina because like clearly it's like very similar like life path that he has taken, but like she doesn't listen. She just goes in and dies.
Yeah, there's lots of tragedy, there's lots of comedy, there's lots of action, there's a little bit of everything. It's like going to the buffet And every time you stand up to go get a second plate, the buffet is on like a turntable. Everything's switched around. Like, oh, where's the fruit? Where's the meat? Oh my God, it's amazing. Like, it's always fun. You're never bored. And all of a sudden you get hit with this really dark story. Like, whoa, that was creepy. And then you get back to fun and lighthearted. And that's the great thing. It's like going to a restaurant with 10 courses. Everything's different. You don't know what to expect. Every day is served a different menu. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is what I think gives it this feeling of being more real than focusing just on the dark plot of Spike.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's when such things happen in real life, you have this one event that is really, really horrible. And then you have a couple days when nothing happens.
Right.
You have your everyday stuff, and then a couple months later, that plot of your life comes back.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
This is the great contrast to my other favorite anime, which is Monster, which is long and dark and brooding and creepy at times and weird at times and scary. It's just this long run or jog, and you're just like, holy hell, what's going to happen next? And it's such a different contrast when you're saying, why is that good? It's only about plot. Yeah, I'll have some side stories with some side characters, but it'll connect to the main plot eventually. With Bebop, it's like, oh, let's do a story about trains, or let's do a story about being tripped out, or
best filler episode of all time.
Yeah, let's have a story about a cop and his ex-wife and what happened. It's like, whoa, like it's always giving you something new. Whereas other stories, which are very focused on one thing, like Monster, is just like you got to be really invested to keep going because it's so much to take in. And you got to appreciate horror, you got to appreciate depression, you got to appreciate all these dark themes. And you can. It's not hard. It's just a story. It's not going to kill you. But it's a different way of respecting and appreciating the genre that you're in for drama. So anyway, let's get going. How long is this thing?
17 minutes.
17 minutes. Okay, we're going to kill this thing. Let's keep going.
Video contains spoilers. Your childhood is a lie, your preconceived notions are wrong, your opinions are invalid, and you should feel stupid for having them. I'll be taking my Reddit awards and comment likes now, please. Cowboy Bebop is a show that countless people have sung the praises of for over 2 decades. It's a show that inspired countless other anime series, helped pioneer the entire seinen subgenre, and cement Shinichiro Watanabe, the show's creator, as being a household name in anime for decades to come. And also, it's not very good. Did I leave my oven on? I think I smell something burnt. About 4 or 5 months ago, depending on when this video comes out, I did an episode.
Oh no, he's being quirky.
Yeah, pretty much. It started that way, yeah.
Also, he's bragging that he's a contrarian.
I don't know. We don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Please don't be that.
He doesn't like
because
it. That's fine.
Then it's just having an inflammatory opinion for clicks, and that is just bad style.
Yeah. Okay.
About Code Geass, where I said this. Old anime like this can tend to go one of 2 ways. They can either be even more amazing than I was expecting, or extremely overrated and a waste of my fucking time.
What, you seriously said that Evangelion turned out to be much better than he remembered? But Cowboy Bebop is much better? No. No way!
I think you had the wrong way around in the editing process.
So Code Geass...
Maybe he saw the real ending to Evangelion.
So maybe he did a video on Code Geass where he says, I think it's going to suck, but it ended up being good. So his expectations were low. Therefore, it's a great anime because you got something out of it that was better than what you thought. But if you think Evangelion is going to be amazing and you watch it and you're just like, oh... Your expectations don't matter anymore. It's a crazy show. It's hard to wrap your brain around, and you don't know why you're watching it at a certain point.
I mean, I have, a few years ago, I have rewatched Code Geass, and I have to say that I didn't like it as much as I first saw it, because I remembered it being brilliant, but a lot of solutions to Lulu's problems were forced in. like, unfortunately. But like, it is a fun show regardless. But like, I remembered it like much better than I remembered. But
Right.
So far, this is really bad.
Yeah, Geass is a mixed bag for many people. I enjoy it because it's not. I don't take it too seriously. They got not magical robots, but they're like powered by some weird whatever technology, and they're flying around, and they got these really cool roller skates and grappling hooks. It's like, all right, this is kind of cool. I can wrap my brain around a European dictatorship conquering the planet, except for Japan, of course. And all right, fine.
Japan is a colony. Like, I mean, yes. Mainly the story is that like they have caused the rebellion.
Yeah, so I could get behind all these weird setups and stuff like that, and just focus on Lelouch going crazy, trying to protect his sister and trying to kill his dad. I get that's fine. That's simple enough to understand. And then you see his bizarre tactics and strategies, which are a little over the top, that you couldn't predict because you have no idea how the hell these machines work, and that they could do that. And then all the power of the Geass and the other Geass users, and you're like, oh my god. So it's fine.
Yeah, it went off the rails.
It goes too far into that realm, and it's like, all right, I'm not going to take it seriously. That's why I enjoyed it. But
yeah,
Bebop is not a fantasy. Bebop is a sci-fi drama comedy, and then some. It's a bit of everything. So you have to respect every layer of it. If you don't like the funny parts, then you're not going to like the serious parts. It's not going to jive with you. So, anyway.
It's trying to stay a bit everyday life as well. I don't want to say slice of life, because that's not what it is. But it has these little moments in there that give you time.
Where they just sit back and just do nothing for 15 seconds. And you're like, okay. He's working out.
And the horrible embarrassment that's the live action is. It's like, I compare like these scenes so many times that like I have made like a point that like, hey, the anime is more like real life than the live action. The live action is the cartoon. And it looks like a 12-year-old trying to copy like the adult. And that's what the anime is. It's like the matured version of like a story.
Forgive me the parallel, but that's what that same description would fit to Chip Nail's Doctor Who run. After the
I haven't seen that one. I checked out after the 10th one.
Yeah, but it's basically he described in an interview how he understands Doctor Who, and it is literally all the absolute superficial things that happen, like long nonsensical talks, explosions, random things that happen, and when you write that well, it's interesting, engaging, and makes some sort of sense. But for Chipnail, it's just these things at random, without any network of roots beneath them that connect anything. And the way you describe the Bebop live action sounds the same. Like most of these what we call woke shows, SJW shows.
Yeah,
they run like that. Like look at the Disney Star Wars movies. Yeah, have big flashy scene, things happen, random surprise stuff, but nothing makes sense. It's just superficial crap.
Well, adaptation or adapting from a comic or an anime or manga is tough, especially live action. And you kind of question why, especially when we heard Cowboy Bebop being adapted. You're like, oh, that's going to be bad because you've already got this excellent format in anime. So they would have to do something different while still trying to maintain consistency and lore and all these other things. You're like, that's way too difficult for someone to give me something new with something which already has a perfect working formula. And I never watched it. I'm never going to watch it. I just can't. And
I would have only trusted an honest Japanese studio to do this themselves.
Even then, I'd be like, I don't know. They made some really shitty adaptations as well.
Yes.
So I think like they made like some Cowboy Bebop shorts, and I was like, what's the point here? Like
If it's just
like
one
Bebop
it's
needs
great.
to be animation because it requires like the thrill of the chases that you see, and then like those long establishing shots. Sometimes like the loneliness of those shots is like it's so hard to adapt into live action because the set pieces are so expensive. And like, that's like something I noticed in the live action. I mean, like episode 4, I've watched the entire thing, but like I've been watching episode 4 so many times because in the original, there's the Eco Terrorist episode where they have a virus that turns people into primates, and they changed it into a virus that turns people into trees, and it's like gruesome. Like it has a person turning into tree while she's screaming, like eerily. It's horrible. But like what caught my eye is that like they blurred out the backgrounds because they aren't real. Like they were showing a background of a fancy building inside like a rich hall. Instead, it's just like a CGI masturbation, I would say. And then the climax of the episode plays out like next to a beach, so it's somewhere in California being shot. And like you compare it to the finale of the original episode where there's like a space chase inside the dimensional gate or whatever it's called. It's just like such a downgrade because now the villains are in broad daylight. They threaten the planet with the biological weapon, and the cops are nowhere to be seen. It's just it's really bad, and everything looks like plastic. I think like Glib one time said that like all of the set pieces look like cheap plastic, and he was so right.
See, that's one of the trade-offs you get from going to a live action is that you're not going to get these amazing shots and vistas that you would in animation, and you have to then accept that, say, okay, it's not going to be as good. Are they giving me something that maybe another audience or another demographic would say, okay, this is kind of like a car chase. This is not a space chase. It's a car chase. We can do that scene. It could still work. Like there's things they could do that are practical and within budget and within makeup, costume, all that stuff to make it work. And yeah, give me a good chase scene. You could do that with a bunch of cars. That could work. It won't be as awesome as the anime because you have spaceships and laser guns and cool stuff. But at least you could pull something off. Like that's what I wanted to see or hear at least. And everyone says, no, this is trash. The fight scenes are trash. The setup is crap. The character dialogue is ridiculous at times. It's like, oh yeah, I don't even care to even bother with that, even if it has the label of Bebop on it. So
when for any reason you leave something out, then the stuff that you still do needs to be amazing. That's not what they did.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, let's keep going.
Now, despite me knowing that it was totally possible that saying such things were grounds for the internet to call for my crucifixion, when I said that, my perspective was that it was a little bit of an exaggeration. I mean, at first glance, the show looks amazing. Beautiful art,
because it
excellent
is
character
amazing.
design, an OST that helps me finish doing my taxes. But good lord, by the time I reached episode 4, I had already been subjected to enough poor storytelling that I thought I'd been part of an experiment to...
Episode 4, is that...
Episode 4 is the Eco-Terrorist episode. Like episode 1 is Asimov, second one is when they get Ayn from Hakim.
Yep.
Because Ayn wasn't like the dog that like they need to get it. It's like a very small character moment from Spike that like, hey, do I want to pursue the bounty and get the money, or do I want to save this animal? And ultimately, he just goes and saves a life instead of thinking about himself. And like small moments like this is like why I regard Cowboy Bebop such highly, because it's brilliant. Like it's not so much in your face that like, hey, I'm gonna do this because I'm a good person. No. Like in the moment, I got to do something. That's so beautiful. And episode 3 is, I think that's when Faye was introduced. Yeah, that's the casino episode.
And I remember episode 5 the most because it's my favorite. And
yes,
it's just like it takes everything and just okay, we're gonna get really heavy dramatic with everything. and focus on Spike. And once you watch episode 5, like, okay, I got to keep watching the show. Because
up until here, episode 4, we've had characters set up. We get to know the people who are the main cast of the show.
Yeah.
And once you have that, as you say, you get episode 5, and it lifts off.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would say episode 5's biggest sin is that maybe it's better than the rest of the episodes. It's just so good. It's like, holy shit, like, how did they do this?
Yeah, but even the first 4 episodes are fun to watch. You're like, who's this
definitely.
chick at the... How the hell did Spike learn to swallow anything and cough it back up? What kind of weird magician is he? And then you have, like, Jet playing the roulettes, or I don't know what he's playing, but he's making all his money.
he made a shit ton of money.
So we got a lot of fun characters doing fun stuff, even though they're setting other characters up. And it's like, okay, you need to have those 2 or 3 episodes to set stuff up for the rest of the show. And this guy's saying, "Oh, this is bad storytelling." Like,
no, this is the actual good storytelling. This is how you do it right.
Just listen to like why he dislikes this. That's gotta be like the worst reason you've ever heard in your life.
All right.
Whisp, you're going to explode. I'm warning you.
We are here. So if we go by time, this is episode 4. We cut off intro and outro. We get about an hour of show up until this, which is completely fine for setting up 3 characters
for a 26 episode show. It's around there.
Yeah.
That's like what, two seasons or 1 season?
Yeah.
One season. It's 26 episodes, I believe. Yeah,
standard length. This is like just the basic setup of the characters. We get more exploration later on, but here, 1 hour of Bebop, and you know who these guys are.
Yeah.
And the dog.
And the dog, yeah, for sure.
See if you can die of boredom.
And unfortunately, I'm still here.
Right off the bat, I noticed a big reason as to why this was an issue. Now, I know this will come as a surprise to literally nobody who actually watched the show, but Cowboy Bebop is an episodic anime. And because of this episodic format, the show opts for telling stories that are overall inconsequential and have very little...
No.
Yeah, this is like, how the hell can you say something like this? Like, by this logic, like, Star Trek should be disregarded because it's an episodic show. Doesn't have an overarching plot. Just
doing the episodic thing, for one, was still the status quo at the time, mainly in media.
Yes.
Secondly, the way you do episodic right is by sprinkling tidbits of actual plot into it. If it's just a line in the background or something, a little thing that happens or that references, hey, this actual big thing is still going on, and there's this tiny bit of development. DS9 did that well, for example. And if you want to get closer to a mix of the two, in Babylon 5, you can basically watch every episode, or almost every episode, without knowing any other episode, and you will still understand what's going on, because it has an A plot, a B plot, that is reflective of the A plot in terms of theme, because that's a show that actually does themes right, and then sometimes it has a C plot that is just super tiny, that is tied into the previous or the following episode, and also somewhat reflects the A and B plot in regards to theme. That's how you do this episodic thing right, or can a version of that. What Bebop does is in a, it doesn't do the several plots thing, but it has the adventure in the episode. But you will eventually get to something else. What we do is not about the main plot. The main plot comes around eventually. What we have is we have a little track through the lives of these people. And we get to know these people. We get to know why Spike is the way he is and why he makes the decisions he does. That's what this is about, so that we can understand the ending.
Yeah, really good
And-
point. I feel like I even like made a note of this that the Bebop plots usually have like the episode itself has like two plots, like the main one and the side one, where you follow the different perspective. And ultimately, it's by the final act of the episode, the two is going to merge together. So like you don't have to like switch between the perspectives. And just to shit on the live action even more, like the live action does like something that is utterly wrong, and that like the themes don't really match at all. So you have like the plot with Spike and Jet trying to hunt for the bounty. Meanwhile, we switch perspectives to Vicious trying to take over the syndicate because he got the syndicate caught him dealing red eye, and because he didn't inform them that he is dealing drugs, they tried to kill him. But as a warning, like they just tell him that don't do this again, and he gets like so angry that he's like playing their assassination. And throughout like 10 episodes, they are trying to build up that like, oh, I'm gonna take over the syndicate, and like there's just nothing matching between the two. And the only times they interact is when Spike just randomly decides that okay, it's time to bully Vicious, and he goes on the top of a silo, and he could just kill Vicious, and he just tells him that like, hey, I had a change of heart. Wait, do you still have bulletproof glass on your car? And he just shoots a sniper bullet at Vicious and scares him, and then like leaves. And we don't see them interact until the final episode. That is just you throw out so much out the window for absolute no value. I'm still gonna say that live action broke me. Like that one is really bad. Like I purposely watched Dragon Ball Evolution to see like how bad is it.
How it ranks compared?
But like the Bebop live action is, as you said, like an anime episode. If you cut down the opening and endings and like the title card in the middle, like for the commercial blocks in Japan, you get like 15 or 16 minutes of content. But Netflix episodes, goddamn, you get 40 to 50 minutes of episode. So there's 10 of them.
They managed to get nothing of the show into that?
Yeah, so the first episode is like 45 minutes long, and it introduces Faye, Jet, Spike, Vicious, Julia, and so like everyone is in the first episode because all of them are chasing after this guy.
But that means there's no time for anyone.
Yes, it keeps changing perspectives. So by the end of the episode, you're like, oh yeah, Faye Valentine is also in this episode.
So it just jumps into tons of shit without establishing anything.
It doesn't establish anything.
Here's this half dozen people. Have fun.
And like because like it's doing what this guy was expecting Bebop to do, is that it's all doing for the overarching plot. And we see that like Bebop is really not designed for that, because when you keep returning to the same jazz club, okay, because Gran is turned into like non-binary whatever hoe, and
You talked about the Netflix thing?
The Netflix thing, yeah. And like they keep returning to the same environments, and like it's really boring because it's normal that we see the Bebop and like the Swordfish and all those other ships being recurring visual elements for the show because they are heavily involved in the plot. But when you see a scene being changed to the different perspective where the main characters aren't involved, instead we have the secondary characters just talking about that. Yeah, like Vicious is playing a coup and we need Mao Yanrai's blessing for this. It's like, okay, how did this help with the A plot? Nothing. We just know that like they are scheming behind the back of these characters, and like, okay. So Julia is gonna be the head of the syndicate now.
Is everyone just trying cheap rip-offs of Game of Thrones and House of Cards now?
I would say yes.
Well, we gotta see what this guy has a problem with the actual show, because
I want to give other examples of this episodic thing, because that works. works.
Well,
and
once
it's
you
a
once you
thing of the time.
establish the format for a show or a series that does that, it's like, oh, now I have to turn my brain in a slightly different direction and say, okay, this is how we have to compare it now, because we can't just say, well, this is not like Lord of the Rings. It's like, no,
Yeah, but
it's not supposed to.
It's slow background development by just what we. So another thing that we do by doing this slow is we get to know the world. We have time for world building. Whether this is in Bebop or whether this is in Trigun. It takes half the season. Trigun is just one season. It takes half the season to just establish this is how the world works. This seems to be a comedy. Because the main character does like cartoon shit. And like Looney Tunes cartoon shit by dodging bullets in silly ways.
Yeah.
And spoiler, in the second half, it turns out, oh, he actually has superpowers and he was just masking this by being silly.
The tonal shift in that is probably, it's more consistent because the half is all goofy and the other half is all dramatic. So this guy would probably enjoy that more because, I can understand it more. It's like, yeah, you can.
Oh, no. He would still complain because it's episodic and there's no big the main plot isn't happening big, because you have a similar, like, Trigun is a if you want, if we make this artificial comparison, Trigun is from story complexity and depth a super light variant of Bebop. You have the same structure with the main character and the villain with Knives. Knives only appears two, maybe 3 times throughout the show. Basically at the showdown at the end, one time in the middle, and that's that. And the rest is Vash doing his adventure stuff and writing the world while everybody thinks he's the villain or he's some goofball.
Yeah, well, he's up against those gang members who get picked off eventually for different reasons, and that's where we get the dramatic arc starting up because he can't take it anymore.
That was crazy when he gets depressed and like the legato approaches him, and at the end, like, he just blows his own brains out. That was so wow.
And even in the comedic part, you have these glimpses, just moments where for a second he becomes serious and he still does the bullet dodging. But you see, oh, he's actually doing this. He's doing the matrix shifting stuff. And otherwise, it's just drawn in a comedic fashion. You get these hints throughout. And counterexample with DS9. You have the background plot constantly happening. I'd say it's better done in Babylon 5 because that was written out from the start to get to the end. They had to make some adjustments due to actors switching in and out, but generally that was all there. And from these episodes that you can just watch the episode and it's all fine, but everything that happens in the episode has some relevance to the overall plot of the show, to character development, background, and how they will act later on, and refer back to things that happened in their lives within the show. For example, there's this one episode about the main theme is marriage. And you have the fledgling one between the commander and the Minbari ambassador. That is like they're just falling in love, if you will, or testing the grounds. You have one that is post-divorce, which happens in a interrogation setting, where it turns out the husband is a psychopath and is interrogated by his wife, who's a telepath. And you have a third one, a very small one. I think it was Garibaldi reminiscing about because he thought he was still married or something. I might be mixing that up. But basically, you have these 3 things. But all of these return later on and are played out further with more relevance to them in other episodes. And this is something similar happens in Bebop. You have these little things that are referenced back, because that is what world building is. It's not just the world itself, it's the characters developing as well. Not just in, oh, I have character growth. It's also, oh, I get to know something about your past. I get to know something about how you tick, how you react to certain things. It's also part of it all. And when it's well written, all of these things come together and make a whole. What you described me of Netflix Bebop is just cartoony mess with the panels not fitting together.
It's like a bunch of like, I think the South Park writers have like a lecture about this, that when you have a story and you have a bunch of, and then this happens, and this happens, and then this happens, like it's just not really connected. You just have like a bunch of shit like slapped on the wall.
Yeah.
It's not connected together.
It's like Rian Johnson wrote The Last Jedi. Just he starts somewhere and then he just wobbles around at random. You don't know where he's going, and then it's this random salt planet. But there's no real connection to anything. The things don't make sense. They don't add up. The simplest trick of how to write a story or technique that you will learn if you go to a basic university course of like that by a comic writer or something is, and there are different techniques of how to do things, but the easiest way to start is you define where you are. Like, here's your character. And then you define the end of your story. What is it that happens at the end? What is the ending? And then you insert the middle. What has to happen that character comes to ending? From how does A come to Z, or Z, as some of you call it. So you have to put G in the middle. Okay. And then you fill in what is between A and G. How do you get from A to G? And how do you get from G to Z? And so on and so on. And it all fills in so that you have a logical connection through it all. And that is how you would get a consistent story that gets somewhere, because beginning and end are defined. You're not just inserting random shit, you're inserting relevant stuff. If then you still want to flesh out something or want to throw in a joke, then you can still do that. But the general structure is there. What you tell me of Bebop and what I've seen in these other social justice productions or parasitizations, they don't do that at all.
All right,
because they don't know how to write. But let's see how this guy thinks the episodic structure is bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Overall inconsequential, and have very little impact on the story in any meaningful way. Now, before I start really ripping into this point, I'd like to play devil's advocate for a minute.
To be fair, this was the norm for television in 1998 and continued to be up until the introduction of online streaming services. And this was for a legitimate reason.
While having to explain this to some people makes me feel like I'm turning into dust with every word that comes out of my mouth, before streaming services existed, you couldn't just binge a series or even choose whatever episode you wanted to watch. And unless you were able to find some kind of weird pirated DVD copy that some dude was selling in the back alley.
There were such things as video stores.
This is a moot point. I don't know why he's getting into this.
This is stupid. Like, you can't still binge a series. Like, what do you mean? Like, you just have to sit down and watch the goddamn media.
Buy the VHS.
Why the VHS? Like, is this guy 20 or something?
I don't know.
Like, no, really. Like, he sounds like a young person if he doesn't remember these things. Like, oh well, let's just go. Let's just go.
TV executive wanted to air at any given time.
And also, if you just so happen to be out burning someone's house down.
What?
He's still referencing the joke from the beginning.
You could either
of the video.
A, pay a bunch of money for a DVR and record it to the cable box's hard drive. B, get a VCR or DVD recorder and record it onto some kind of physical media. Or C, the more likely option, you were basically fucked.
Because of this, TV shows had to find a way to make stories that were self-contained enough that anyone at any time could watch any episode and not be completely lost for details. And it's for that reason that we see Cowboy Bebop having short, self-contained stories that have very little to do with an overarching plot. However, being episodic doesn't mean that you have to forego an overarching storyline. In fact, one of my favorite shows of all time, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, was an episodic show that was able to implement season-spanning plot lines for the duration of the show. Now,
It wasn't that much different.
I mean,
Yeah, like doesn't that?
yeah, they have like in those shows, the two seasons rather, they have this. Oh, is this another type of villain that we've encountered before? It's like, no, it's something different, and they try to investigate that, and they go on a little.
Wasn't
hunt.
like the Laughing Man the overarching villain?
Right? Is it a standalone complex? Is it some other weird AI construct thing doing his own thing? Is it a puppeteer sort of villain? There's all these wonderful anecdotes and things that connect to what Ghost in the Shell originally was, and whether the previous season was like this season. Like, what are we doing? What's happening? So, yeah, there is that underlying question of who is this guy now that we have a new guy from different than last season, but it was still episodic until they finally figure out, okay, this dude's the villain. How do we stop him? And then the last few episodes were just this huge plot line of how to stop this one dude and his puppets and stuff like that. So, but that's normal.
Is it that here he could see it and in Bebop he couldn't?
I think like maybe he was invested in Standalone Complex, so
I don't know. Complex was pretty complicated. It had all these weird side stories, like the one with the guy who just got his implants and he's like watching people eat food. He's like, why am I eating food? I don't need food. I'm a robot. Blah, blah, blah. Like all these weird, one was like a chat room episode, which had nothing to do with much aside from the Major trying to get information on the villain, but they were doing this back doorway. Like there's all these episodes.
There was like the episode with the guy who is in the tank and he just like wanted to see his mom again.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff like that, which is...
Yeah, but Ghost in the Shell is real science fiction stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Actual, true, genuine, all these wonderful words, science fiction.
What would happen?
So you get these philosophical explorations of we have this technology. Now, how does that actually play out in real life?
Yeah,
in mundane life.
Like what would happen if a guy who just wants to visit his family is a tank? Like how does that? How does that work, right? So stuff like that is fun as an idea, and that's the same concept with Star Trek. What would happen if you had a god running around playing with your lives? How would you placate him to survive? Like what would be the case? So there's all kinds of great setups, but they have that in Bebop as well. What if you had a dying chess player who just wants to have a great game before he dies, and he's constantly looking throughout the world to find that one gamer. And you have this weird episode to get to that point to figure out what the hell's going on. So that's fine. That's mystery. That's science fiction. That's comedy, drama. I guess he didn't like the format very much for Bebop. I don't know. It's basically space opera.
Maybe he didn't like Bebop is just so good in all aspects, and it's just like, oh, goddamn, I hate perfection.
It's so
I
good.
Could never make something like that.
And then like he had like that nightmare from Courage the Cowardly Dog that like, you're not perfect, and like he woke up in like a cold sweat and like, oh, like I can't like Bebop.
Oh. All right. Oh.
And what I think is the real kicker of this point is the fact that you can tell that Cowboy Bebop tried to do that. Some characters and backstories that show up early on are referenced in later episodes, but usually these are poorly fleshed out and contained only within the very few episodes with
I don't need to know the backstory of Mao Genrai or Anastasia or any of these other I don't need to know that. It's not important.
Like none of the elders are important, but like this is exactly like what he demands that like the Netflix show has done. Like, hey, how about that one of the elders is actually the father of Vicious? I'm like, who cares? Who cares about their names? Nobody gives a fuck. Like we know, like it's the same thing, that argument that like people like to bring up with the Emperor from Star Wars. We don't need to know his backstory. Like those are one of the few things that the prequels have done well. Is that like he's a pretty good character in that. But regardless of that, even if the prequels didn't exist, Palpatine or Sidious, like whatever his name is in that show. I think he's just called Emperor, but like he is the Emperor. That's all we need to know. He is the status quo. He is the one behind the Empire, and that's it. We don't need to know all this backstory that like, oh, my son is like so jealous of me, of my power, but he's like a complete dumbass. Like, he wants to kill me because like his fifis got hurt.
In Star Wars, it's enough to know he is the Dark One, he is the Grey Eminence, behind it all and above it all. That's enough. He's just the dark force, not the force, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, quite literally, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a personification of it as well. Damn.
He is Satan.
And here, this what you brought up here with where the changes they made of what if he's the son of this one guy of the syndicate. These are things that pretentious art students, acting students come up with and think they're the bestest, most creative people ever who will surprise everyone with, oh, look at this twist, look at this revelation.
Because
that's what they are.
There were plenty of those, but like today I actually looked into the writer's credit.
Oh, a twist, and I think, and it's like the dangling keys in front of the child.
I looked into writer's credit, and like, you know what I found is that like the head writer for this show was the dude who wrote Thor 2, The Dark World, and Thor Ragnarok. And then they were like, yeah, this is our guy. He can adapt Cowboy Bebop. No way, Jose.
If they actually hired Shinichiro Watanabe, I'd be like, all right, you're in the right track, but you need help. You can't just have him do everything. You have to have...
All they hired him for is to like cry in a corner, like, why are you doing this to me? Please let me see my family again.
I even remember Hideo Kojima saying, so, Cowboy Bebop, Netflix. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember that tweet.
Oh, anyway.
That's when I knew that like he still has a soul.
He still has a soul. Yeah, it's true. All right.
They're explicitly being explored. And this is made even worse by the fact that the show essentially opts to rely solely on its, admittedly, fantastic aesthetic to keep you entertained, rather than having their attempts at a plotline having any greater effect on the story, thus keeping you invested. If that were enough...
No, like there are like plenty of things to like about Bebop, and like it's like those small character moments that we see throughout the show. And I would say like the one episode with what did we see just now? Like Jet and the ex girlfriend that he had. That was like they weren't like visually impressive shots there because it was all played in like this post-industrial city lookalike thing, and it was run down. Like all we saw is like this lonely bar that like the girl had to close down because like they went bankrupt and they were like escaping with this young guy, and then like what hits really hard is that the girl just admits to Jet like why did she leave him in the first place, and we just feel it because like Jet was betrayed. Like she could have like been honest about it instead of just like just telling him that like I'm leaving you. Like that's really like there are like so many much more things that carries this show, and like having these small episodic moments where you build the character so you're actually going to care about them when the finale comes, because like that's like the ultimate build-up that you can accomplish in a show. It is just remarkable.
These types of people don't care about the characters. They get a summary of the characters and then get situation.
Yeah, let's just get done with these like plot points and just like rush ahead to the action.
Yeah, it's like I call it premature ejaculation writing. So that's you look at Abrams, you look at Johnson, and that's what they do.
Well,
They write something to quickly get to the cool looking scene. Favreau did the same in Mandalorian.
He is arguing here that the plot of an individual episode has no bearing on the plot of the overarching show, and it's like, that's fine, but that's every episodic nature. You don't have to go that far. Why is that bad? Why is that not entertaining? What is wrong with...
Imagine that you're reading a book. Not every chapter in it is advancing the main plot.
If that's the nature of the story, to have different episodes every chapter, then that's the point. It's not to tell. It's like having an anthology of a guy and then another guy and then another guy. And then you go back to the original guy. You're like, what was that all about? I don't know. Let's find out. And you just keep going. And eventually it connects.
If you just want to run through the bullet points of the main plot, then you're gonna have very short stories everywhere.
Yeah, so the
most of the stuff you don't need. You don't need 6 seasons of The Sopranos to tell the story of The Sopranos.
Yeah, the nature of episodic storytelling is not some horrific idea to plot to plots. It's like they have their own plots. They're not necessarily slice of life. They can be, but they're not necessarily. It's their own little compact world with the characters from the other episodes, which are consistent, and they learn new things. They have new struggles. We learn about them and their characteristics and their skills and their backgrounds. And it just keeps going from there. And it just keeps building up until their past catches up with them. And that's how the story is told. That is the nature of these characters. They have to turn around and go, oh, I got to deal with that now, even though I've been running away from it the entire time. That is a good way of setting up episodic storytelling because it is in the nature of the characters to run away and to have these interlude and then another interlude, only they're different tones and they're different styles and they're different feelings. That's great. If you were to do that with Star Trek, I would say, wow, that's brilliant. That for 7 seasons to do that, if Q is always there in the background throughout the seasons, that'd be brilliant. But it's just random. Q just shows up and, hey, Jean-Luc, time to judge humanity finally. It's like, oh, here we go.
It's just like lighting in the bowl, I would say, like including Q in those episodes. Because he's very good in like a small amount that like you see him like throughout the series. But like when you get too much of him, he gets really boring.
Like in Voyager, yeah.
Yeah.
In TNG, he had about 2 episodes per season.
That's about right, yeah. And the finale, that was so good.
Yes.
I wish it would have ended there.
Yeah. He back to this video here. He put up another straw man here, which is talking about the great visuals. I'm sorry to inform you, but this level of visuals is the standard for good anime of the times. I'm serious. Like everything was hand drawn back then. Now we got look at this background here with the watercolor concrete and the sky. You get the feeling. You know this is a hot day. This is a hot summer's day just from the way the color is chosen here, and how the lighting is put. In lots of modern anime, you got these stale CGI backgrounds, this cheap shit where everything is a bit too clean. You look at later Lupin, although for many it becomes more true, of course, for the OVAs, which have of course more work put into them. Same with the Slayers OVAs, but they're on this level of quality. And this is just a series that is consistent on this level of quality. It's great.
I got to read this donation. It just came in from Giant Fearless Ajax. Thanks for the $10. Look out, sir. Howdy. I've listened to you guys for a little over a year now, most work days, in fact. I haven't donated because I never catch you live until today. Thank you for the many laughs. Wonderful Wisp, magnificent Mark, and Stud Boy. Cheers. Laddingtons. Okay, that was earful. Thank you, sir.
That was very nice of you. Thank you.
That was very
nice.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, let's get back to the video, I guess.
Yeah.
To keep my attention, then you can make me watch paint dry as long as you slap some kind of cute or cool aesthetic onto something.
Okay, I give you an Ego Dreamer also says it in the chat. It's the standard style, visual style of the 80s and 90s. What comes to mind is Cutie Honey.
Oh,
Watch that. Same visual style.
Yeah, but he's saying that he's tired of the episodic nature because it's not attractive enough, which is the most bizarre thing to say about Bebop, because every episode has great aesthetics, which he admitted to, visually and audio. So the great music, great sound, great acting, animations are great. So if you don't care about the plot, like, oh, he's got to go hunt another bounty, blah, but it's fun to watch because the music is catchy, then great. But he's saying it's not? Like, what are you talking about?
I'm just
Maybe he's deaf.
I'm just bringing up the visual style and the quality of it again because he claimed that Bebop gets the acclaim it does because of its quality visuals and style. And I'm sorry, that's simply not true. You can praise it, but it's in general nothing different from the prior 2 decades of it.
Edward mines Bitcoin.
Probably.
All right.
Oh god, that cut me off guard.
Here's a super chat from Adonia Smith. Hey, question for all: who is your favorite character from this anime? Ooh, who is our favorite character? That's tough because they're all sort of ephemeral. They're all sort of just they're representative of an idea. Like Spike is just the guy who has this murky past we're not too clear about, but he's like the definition of cool. It's never really defined how he's cool. Like he's really smart at times, he's clever at times, he doesn't give a shit at times, he's good at fighting, he's good at gambling. Like everyone's good in their own world. Like Ed is fun. Ed is just goofy fun.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to like goofy fun, that's every show with her is great. But there's no real one character I could say is like fantastic. Like Jet is philosophical at times, and like Vicious is not even a character. He's just sort of an opposition. He's just a thing that we know nothing about, and we're scared of him, and that's what makes him scary. No one knows what he's about. What can he do? How does he block bullets with a sword? I have no idea. So Julia, maybe? I don't know. Like I really don't have a favorite.
Like I would say, like my hardest thing would be like who isn't my favorite character. Like even like the side characters, like Gran. I would say Gran is like the best episodic character. Could we say that? Like,
yes,
I would go for that because like Gran is like such a cool concept. Because of course I really love the main cast, but Gran had like this thing that like he wants revenge on Vicious, and it's just because like he betrayed him. He betrayed him, and like he was scheming until now just to like pull off that explosion that didn't end up killing him, but it's still like he went that far, and to like have this identity in this like shithole just to pay him back. Well, that was a really cool plot.
He used the tragedy that happened to him to try to turn it against Vicious.
I do like Gren because what Yoko Kanno did was she turned Gren into her voice for the sax, the tenor sax that she wrote for music-wise. But at the end of that episode, she had to then uplift the music even further because now that we've lost Gren and that sax theme, they then gave with its Space Line, I think the name of the song is.
Yes, that's the name.
Yeah, so she uplifted it even further, now knowing that the character's gone, and this was an episode we had to get by. So it's a very smart technique of turning a character to perform the music of whatever, because you don't know where the saxophone ends, because you see it play and then you hear it in the ending, and you're like, oh, is that an homage to Gren? Like, what's going on? So it's a great idea to do that. But there's other characters that, like the kid who just wants to be like Spike and he wants to save his sister, and Spike teaches him how to fight, and he does the technique, and boom, he's dead.
Yeah, like I would say that when I was rewatching Bebop, I was looking for like the weakest episode, and I would say like maybe that's the one, because like all the other ones are just like everything is, but even like the weakest episode is like something that you can remember like fondly.
Yeah.
And that was like the thing that like really caught my eye.
The
That, like,
setting, the visuals of those pollinated flowers, like all that stuff is just visually appealing. So even if you didn't like
it's
that
like so
story,
unique as well. Like you can like just remember like, oh yeah, that's the plan. That's the episode where it happened. Like, but the Netflix adaptation, like everything looks the same because like they only have one set.
right?
for
So you have
everything.
these beautiful set pieces. You have these beautiful science fiction worlds. You have Spike trying to be like basically Bruce Lee teaching this guy how to be like water.
Yeah.
And that the touching scene with his sister, the guy gets involved in a mob. It's like, oh, this is another Spike story, and he dies, and it's so sad. And Spike's just like, that's life. What are you gonna do? So everything works emotionally, visually, audially. Like everything's beautiful. So I don't know. Is it weak? Yeah, definitely. The plot's pretty basic. Nothing special.
It is very basic, but I'm like, it's kind of like when the pro chef can prepare like the best meal, even with like the lesser ingredients. I would say that.
It's like you give him a hot dog and relish. He's like, okay, this is all I got.
Yeah, like, and they're gonna make the best thing ever. Because like how the episode begins is that like the young guy tries to pull a move on Spike, and then like he gets embarrassed, and like Spike, he keeps following Spike, and Spike is like, okay, I'm gonna help you out. That was like a really weak beginning for the episode, but God, it ended up so well.
That was
it's amazing.
Typical hero.
Waltz of Venus, yeah. Yes, Whisp?
Typical hero who doesn't want to do the hero thing again, but he just can't help himself.
Oh man.
Yes.
There was that other character. We can keep going. We're not gonna do that because there's so many characters that we love.
To try to answer the question,
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Jet because of his mix between having to be the tough guy for his job and his philosophical, quiet side that he tries to cultivate as well with his little bonsai farm. I love that. I just love that scene.
Here is. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Ed comes close behind, but I don't know how to say this in English. Ausklammern. I put Ed on an extra layer because Ed is so much comic relief, is a little bit of a Deus Ex in many moments. Which fits Ed's profession, being a remote support character for the jobs they do, and Ed together with Ein is basically a unit. Once these two come together, it's basically one character to play off the comic relief.
Okay, here is Sphincter Cell Gay Ass Theory. That's a fun little name. Vicious to Gren during the war on Jupiter. You are gay because you like men. I am gay because I hate women. We are not the same. Also, you didn't see it in the anime, but Ed has violated every law in the Geneva Conventions. Okay.
Probably.
I don't know.
I think if I remember correctly, that was just some bullshit that Ed has done just to get name for him herself.
Okay. Oh, it's a hacker profile to get it.
Yes. Yeah. I think she pulled off the same prank with the father character. That like, 50 Wulongs to find him, but it had like a bunch of zeros in like the floating point areas.
Oh boy! All right.
It's a great show. But maybe like Faye Valentine is also a great character because like she has like probably like the biggest like character development.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go on because we're gonna stay here forever.
What? And honestly, none of this is to say that a show has to have a serialized plotline in order to be good. Plenty of anime have and continue to have very little character depth and greater storyline and still manage to be extremely interesting and entertaining.
However, that would mean that you would have to focus more on the cast's chemistry, interesting concepts, or hell, even just comedy.
Wait. You're saying the cast doesn't have chemistry?
I would say like Bebop has all
even
three of those
just comment.
checkboxes.
So character chemistry, Spike hates everyone. Faye really likes money, and that's about it. Ed is just loves everyone and wants to have a good time and plays around. Ein loves Ed, and I think the father figure is Jet. So he's just sort of like, "What the guys? Would you chill out?" And just...
He is the voice of reason too.
Yeah.
He runs the kindergarten.
Yeah, so neato ideas. The whole show is awesome. Every episode is amazing. So I don't know how many more science fiction ideas you need. Funny jokes happens every other episode with either Ed
My god.
or Spike.
And there's subtle jokes. There's so many subtle jokes in it.
The whole show is subtle. Yeah, it's kind of like not just with the main character, but the side characters as well. The bounties.
And the trio of like the old man
Real
who
guys.
keeps popping up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I love that like they survived the shootout at the first episode, and then like they pop up like maybe like every episode,
Yeah.
and then they also like pop up at the end of the chess player episode, like with that random platform.
It's so awesome how in the movie they gave, because they're always complaining about the war, like, oh, back in my day. And and then in the movie, they actually have them go in planes and have a plot function to save the day.
Yes.
Oh, it's so brilliant.
Yeah, and but if he doesn't see the funny jokes in Bebop, how does he see them in Black Lagoon?
Yeah, but even this is
Because
such
I'd say Black Lagoon has good character chemistry. Ideas, not as much as Bebop, still good. And maybe the funny he sees is just the what's the name, Rosa storyline later on, which is just wacky over the top anime bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
Which is fun to watch, but it's like the series is mainly serious, and then you get that
Well,
stuff.
they do also have a fight scene between a guy with a sword and a chick with guns, so it's like, all right, this is kind of like Bebop, I guess.
Yes, you also have submarine Nazis, so what?
Yeah,
but
yeah. But the problem is
there's levels to bullshit.
the problem here is this is not the right question. You don't ask the ways of making a static story not boring. Static stories aren't boring. That's not just because it's static or by itself or a short story or one-off. That's like saying what do you like first off in a story? That's so generic. That's so broad. I don't know what he's getting at here. So this premise is false. This concept of character chemistry, you could have horrible character chemistry, it'd still be fun. You could have horrible comedy, it'd still be entertaining. You could have great ideas, it'd still be boring. This is not the proper question or frame of mind to talk about when you're talking about storytelling. Not boring. Hey, we need some sex scenes, guys. That'll make it not boring.
Yeah, I hate repeating myself, but like the Netflix show literally does everything that this guy wants the show to be. They include a sex scene, and that's the most disgusting one ever. So you remember like there's the episode in Bebop where there's the cult, and it's actually just the boy like creating like a persona for himself. They throw that out the window, and instead it's just a crazy AI who wants to create a cult for itself just so it can kill people who wander into the hole.
That is unnecessary and makes no sense.
And it creates like a matrix, and the matrix works until you wake up from it, and it's gonna try repeatedly to like go as far until you give up mentally, and then it kills you. It's like it's pretty stupid because it has no purpose.
That is just your average.
And then there's like a scene where Spike is being tempted that like, hey, I see Julia, I'm gonna kiss her, and it blends in as a transition to Faye Valentine having lesbian sex with someone. And I was like, what the fuck am I watching? What the hell did I get myself into? Please help me.
Okay.
So meanwhile, while Spike is being captured by this crazy machine, Faye is having the time of her life. It's like,
All right. Here is found guilty at Nuremberg. Oh, thanks. Jet as a kindergarten teacher. Faye, stop trying to steal the janitor's credit card. Ed, stop using the computers to devalue currency. Spike, stop wiping your ass barehanded. Ein, stop eating pencil erasers. Ed, stop eating pencil erasers. Okay.
That sounds like a believable scene. Ego Dreamer asks what a static story is.
To put it bluntly, not a dynamic story, which whatever the freaking hell that means.
so dynamic story is like that one that is overarching and it's like continuing on one.
I don't know. Episodic,
I really don't know either.
Episodic storytelling is not static. I don't get it. What is he trying to say?
Let's continue so we can see what this insanity means.
And like I said before, similar shows like Standalone Complex or Black Lagoon either outright...
Okay, I'm gonna be very short, but like I fucking love the first few minutes of Bebop because like Spike just gets interrupted from his training to eat the bell peppers with beef, and then it turns out that they don't have enough money for meat because Spike screwed up the last job, so they need to go to this next bounty so they can get enough money. That's fucking hilarious, and then it begins. But yeah, that's all. We can continue on.
Mark, I'm getting flashbacks to Red Dwarf.
Yes, it is Red Dwarf. Hey, where's the food? You screwed up. Oh.
It all disintegrated over the past million years that you've been cryogenically frozen in time.
Let's have some chicken soup.
Master this formula, or at least do a significantly better job than Cowboy Bebop does. For example, my favorite episode in Standalone Complex has our lead character, Bato, having to face his past demons, tracking down an ex-American Special Forces officer that he had a past with, who was known for skinning innocent women alive. And the whole episode surrounds Bato's struggle with his PTSD, and him deciding whether or not to just murder this guy in cold blood, or do his job as a cop and just arrest him. See how interesting that is? That kind of...
Hey, dude, like, do you remember like that one episode with Jet where he needs to face the guy who caused him to have an amputation on his arm, and then it turns out that his partner was the one who betrayed him. There is like a very similar plot right here. It ends with very tragically, I would say.
It's a devastating revelation.
Yeah, that like, hey, like your partner sold you out.
The battle plot compared to that is rather straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, should we even...
Maybe that's the difference, because he doesn't get, like, why is an emotion when you get betrayed and, like, you lived your entire life that, like, hey, like, I was, like, the best at the Force, and I got put down because this person just betrayed me.
Should we even bother mentioning the pacing and the visuals and the music interlude of episode 5, Balada Fall? Like every 30 seconds something's awesome. It's just like, whoa. And then the music comes in and it's like, oh, flashback. Those are the shards of glass, just like the paper being torn. Oh, it's symbolic. Oh, he's dying. Oh no, he's still alive. Oh, it's just like that scene. Oh, Faye's singing. Faye's not tone deaf. Why'd you say that? Like everything's just, oh my God. It's beautiful. It's so poetic. It's absolutely gorgeous. And like, what more do you want out of your anime? So like, what's the thing you're going for here?
I don't know what he wants. He wants it to look like a standalone complex. So.
Like there's John Woo.
That always kills this argument about but Bebop just looks visually stunning. The same is true for standalone complex in certain scenes. because it does a lot of this too clean CGI crap. That was always
Yeah.
my criticism of it. It
And
looks too
there's the
blunt and
Tachigoma.
sterile.
What was it called?
Tachikoma.
Tachigoma, okay. I feel like those scenes are like, oh, please stop.
Yeah, it's the old cheap cell shading CGI.
Yeah, it's really bad. Aged horribly.
There's so many great scenes. And then the next scene where, I can talk about episode 5 for a very long time. If you cannot appreciate episode 5 even on one, like even the musical level, forget the visual level, forget the flashbacks, forget the symbolism, just the music alone should be like, oh, that's beautiful. Fighting in a church, oh, it's like John Woo, it's kind of cool. Flashbacks, it's like a foreshadowing, it's kind of cool. Like there's so many things to work with. So I really want to know, what is this guy after when he's talking about static storytelling or like the crime stuff is in Bebop as well. Not as much as obviously standalone comics. The whole show is a crime show, but they got that. They got a few episodes just dedicated to detective work, and there's of course Jet's Past. There's that crazy murder mystery story with Pierre LeFou. There's all kinds of mystery and suspense and horror and weird creepy stuff and weird fun stuff and ridiculous fighting with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar character in the second episode. There's so much for everyone. I don't know what this guy wants. So anyway.
The episode is the norm across standalone complex, whereas Cowboy Bebop's engaging concepts and execution like this are a very rare exception, not the norm.
No, dude. You just said the police procedural show is a police procedural show. It's like, yeah. So that's not Bebop. Go watch go watch some Tank Police or something. I don't know, whatever you want.
Excel Saga. I would say that's the perfect show for him.
Do you think he would be able to follow the plot?
Absolutely. Like, if we follow his logic that he's complaining about the episodic nature of Bebop, and he likes Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, yeah, totally. I think he fits the perfect description right there.
Yeah. I see your point.
Down to the T.
Because the plot of Excel Saga is so meta that it is similar to standalone complex.
But
yes,
you see, like, there's the overarching plot of like Pedro. Or what's his name?
Pedro.
Pedro, yes. Afro, no. It's like every time like he gets destroyed by like that godlike being. And then, like, eventually, like, he has to team up with his son to defeat this villain, and he'll live happily ever after. It's just like a fairy tale. I was dreaming, and I had to wake up.
Well, as soon as
whatever, like John Wick said.
As soon as they put in Shinichi Watanabe into the Excel Saga, I was like, oh, it's not
Excel Saga with Shinichi Watanabe. I mean, he made Space Dandy, so it wouldn't go too far. So.
Exactly.
And he I think he made the episode in Samurai Champloo where Mugen gets really high from weed.
All right.
Oh, God.
And for said episodes and concepts like this to be interesting, however, you actually have to have an interesting cast of characters. This is honestly the root cause.
What does that mean? What does it mean to have interesting cast of characters, sir? Can you explain this very generic term to you?
I'm sorry, Giga Chat distracted me. I just need to add, the meta plot of Excel Saga is that the anime is trying to figure out what genre it is in each episode. So every episode is a different genre of anime.
I don't know what it is, guys. I can't tell you. I have no idea.
It has to be Berettas.
In the first episode, after the author has been assassinated by basically Deadpool, the anime.
Yes.
Yeah.
The anime just does random shit.
Oh yeah, that's the first episode.
Yes, killing the assassination of Koshi Rikuro by Excel, his character.
Don't even try to rationalize what's.
Yeah, that is what Axel Saga is. Every episode is a different genre because the show tries to figure out what genre it is.
Oh, just like Axel Saga.
Yeah, that is that.
I mean,
that is
Cowboy
the idea.
Bebop.
Oh no! Don't say that. All right.
Of many of this show's problems, and much of what I already said will end up being expanded upon more when talking about this.
Now, I won't say that these characters are 100% uninteresting. However, I will say that if I stood in a pool of them, I wouldn't get my feet wet. You know, they're shallow.
No, they're not.
There's not much to them.
The show has almost no chemistry between any two characters in the main cast. Now, mind you, part
Why?
of this is because the show...
Does this guy
Okay, like
understand?
then why did like Faye get so emotional when Spike was about to leave the Bebop forever?
Remember the
That-
scene when Ed leaves? They take all the eggs, and they sit
Yeah.
there, and they're like, "What do we do?" And they just start devouring the eggs because that's life. Just goes on. You just gotta keep like there's
Yeah.
there's no big discussion. There's no like big argument. It's like no, we just keep going.
Yeah.
There's so much unsaid in Cowboy Bebop. That is the point.
I think this is one of these people who incapable of catching on subtleties.
Yes,
That's writing.
there is so much.
He's the type of person you need to spell out everything.
Yeah, it's like saying, dude, you have to listen. He's like, there's no dialogue. It's like, that's the point.
There's like the final episode with the tiger stripped cat story that Spike says to Jet. That's the last time they talk with each other, and it's like full of metaphors of Spike's life with Julia. That like the tiger script cat gets a liking of like another cat, and they decide to live together. But finally, like that other cat that like he has fallen in love with dies, and eventually he dies as well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he says like that the story is pretty shit because I hate cats, and they both laugh up loud. And then Jet asks like the final question, like, "Are you doing this for Julia?" And then Spike just says like, "No, I'm not doing anything for a dead woman." And then he walks away.
Yeah, there's that.
And it's just like you just feel the tension in the air. That like, holy shit, that was rough.
I'm just having this moment again where I realize when I first watched Bebop in the early 2000s, I'm diagnosed autistic. I got this. I understood these things, but this absolute normie doesn't.
I think he
question is what's-
purposely doesn't want to.
What is? But I've seen people like him off and on again. Like, I mean, offline and online, everywhere. And these are the normies, and they don't understand social cues. They don't understand things between the lines. Yet I, the bloody autist who supposedly doesn't, I get them.
Well,
So what is actually going on?
well, remember this is the first episode. Like the first scene is where Spike is smoking it up with Laughing Bull, and he's giving this prophecy of like the falling star, and
Yes, that's the one.
we're like, what is all this mean? Oh, he's talking about Spike, and Spike is just smoking it up. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
Like it's
And don't yeah, go on.
yeah, it's this whole foreshadowing that you're not even aware of. That's so subtle. If you're not paying attention, like what was that scene all about? What is he doing with this crazy Native American drugged out dude? Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah. And these things are obvious to me. And don't get me wrong, there are things I don't catch because of the autism. Yes, they're there, but what this guy doesn't catch is just, I'm sorry, it's retarded.
Yeah, and that scene is beautiful because it shows that Spike is looking for help and he needs this advice from this dude who's talking about I don't know what he called the Asimov dude, but that is a parallel to the actual show of what's going to happen to Spike at the end.
Yes.
And that's what you do in these stories. You have foreshadowing, you have symbolism, you have mirroring. That's why a lot of the characters, I don't remember, is there an episode with Faye? I remember the manga had this where she's playing cards with her teacher, who's this card shark as well. I don't think it's in the anime. And
It's not in the anime.
yeah. But all the characters, whether in the manga or in the anime, are always facets of the main characters. and things about them that are brought up or twisted dark versions of that. And that's how you tell stories, because they relate to the character, they relate to the theming, they relate to the episode, and they connect. Whether your brain logically makes those connections or the show literally says, this is about Spike. If you haven't figured it out yet, like all these things are there for you to pick to your brain to go, yeah, I get it. That's really
to be fair, it takes a really high IQ to understand Cowboy Bebop. It's like both of you have said that it's not too difficult to understand this plot. It's right in front of you.
It's not an IQ thing.
I know that's only a joke, but
yeah. But it's to understand these concepts and see these things. It's not a question of intelligence. There's some other mental development that is required for that.
Yeah. I remember Laughing Bull was also referring to Gren, or perhaps Lynn, because the song "Blue" refers to the blue star in the sky. There's all this wonderful little subtext, which is like, what does that mean? And you have to think about it. It's like, oh, maybe he was referring to that character. Maybe he's referring to that plot line. I don't know. So it's this beautiful setup, prophecy, poetry, any kinds of songs that are repetitive, that connect, give the audience a little insight into what is going on in this story outside of literally what's happening. So I don't think Bebop is that deep, but it's definitely deep enough to go, okay, there's something there.
The show is written in a way that keeps the cast separated for the most part. Most of the time, characters just feel disjointed.
Yes. That's the point.
That's the point, because
they're disconnected.
Ultimately, they have to part ways.
Yes, they have to part ways. They're away from their past. Their past has to catch up with them. They have to realize where they're coming from and where they're going and what they can do to get there and yada yada yada. They can't live a normal life. They're bounty hunters. They're going
and just
die.
to like quote Joseph Campbell, for Spike, this is the return of the hero.
Oh yeah, you can go that far. I wouldn't. I mean, that's you could try using the hero's journey. I'm sure it's in there, but it's
I'm just reaching.
Yeah, it's a really hard abstraction to find it, but I'm sure it's there. So, but yeah, you could say it's a quest story as well. It's fine.
Even when they do get together, they act like everything is kept on a decently professional basis, or in the case of Faye,
Which brings me to my next point. Every single member of the cast is a static character. This isn't a bad thing.
Not really.
Okay, so Faye never changes. Ed never changes. Jet never changes. These characters who have to deal with their past.
Well, I would say like Spike and Jet are probably like they do change, but like they are like they have like the least change compared to like the other two.
That's part of their character, because they either change or die. And in Spike's case, he's trying to get out of that life, and he just can't. He can't change.
He just can't. But like he's like he puts on a face that like he's like a cold-blooded killer, but like he does care about people. Like he has good intentions.
The flashbacks, at least the ones where he's doing his mob, he's always smiling and big grin and in the mob. But as soon as he gets into that operating table, after that, it's all one facade. He's all just trying to get by.
Yeah.
And he's never really happy. He's trying to, he's happy-go-lucky at times. Even in the movie, he's trying to flirt and doing all that. But it's like, yeah, it's just Spike. He's just trying to get by, make the best of the situation. With Faye, she's like, how am I going to make money here? I
have to pay off my debt. Inflation has been really awful.
Yeah.
And I finally know why this guy is creeping me out so much. He only half his eyes have eyelashes. It's only the outer half. The inner half doesn't have eyelashes.
Oh, that's weird.
It looks really creepy, weird, uncanny. Especially with with his eyebrows like that. This is like clean shaven, and then this dead pseudo smile. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Right.
Horrible.
Maybe he's a
grow in your
VTuber.
eyelashes. Get your eyelashes back. Whoever stole them from you, sneak up and beat them up and steal them back.
Okay. Good advice. I'm sure someone's learning. But
Don't let people steal your eyelashes.
Oh.
okay. I've never expected someone to say that, but okay.
when the writer intends for this to be the case. Plenty of stories are fine with having a completely static cast. Konosuba, off the top of my head, is a perfect example of a show that's set up for static characters, considering a deep cast was never the point.
Why?
And instead, it focuses more on the comedy and character chemistry.
Okay, so
They do develop somewhat.
Good for them. This show does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It has fun doing it. It has great production values. And it's entertaining every single show. In Konosuba, it's kind of stupid, honestly.
Yeah, it's going for that. But like, yeah, hey, Marvel and DC, if you want to pull off like humor in like a otherwise serious show, this is how you do it. This is how you do comedy right. Not by like name calling characters or like doing stupid slapstick shit with like otherwise serious plots.
The thing is,
you do something like this.
With Bebop,
like, Bebop got the comedy down to the T.
How the heck would you ever get an actor to play Ed? Like, I don't see it even working properly.
I don't think it can be pulled off in reality.
No, Ed is like the ultimate cartoon character for Japanese media.
Maybe a Japanese girl could do it. Maybe. But I can't see the Americanization of that work at all.
I'd say you'd also need to get Jonan Vasquez to do the direction for the camera for Ed.
Oh.
And
Mel Brooks to do the voice.
Probably. If you've ever seen music videos done by Jonan Vasquez, the guy who made Invader Zim, he knows how to play with perspective to get these weird scenes right. And to instruct his actors to do this wacky cartoon shit.
It's so specific. Like I still think you'd have to get like a Japanese director, Japanese actors, for Faye at least. Ed, I don't know. Like I really don't know.
After Smudcast, dear viewers, look up music videos by Jonan Vasquez, the guy who made Invader Zim. You'll get the idea.
I don't think we're going to finish this video because it's just driving us nuts. So
I think it's chill.
Well, no. We're just stopping every 10
really
seconds, and we're just like,
every
okay.
10 seconds because it's so dumb.
Anyway, we'll see.
I mean, we can continue this like some other day.
Yeah, we could go tomorrow if you guys have time. It's up to you, but
I have time. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not going to get finished all the way through.
Yeah, let's go to like a 7-minute mark. How about that?
Okay, that's fair.
Or hell, for a non-anime related example, how about the original Halo trilogy? The Master Chief and Cortana are static characters without a lot of depth in those games because they're written to fit that dynamic. But yet again, you can clearly tell that this is not what the Cowboy Bebop writing staff wanted.
How do you know
Time
that?
and time again, we see attempts to flesh out the main cast and
Are
add depth.
Are you joking right now? Are you think a flashback is not enough or what? Isn't fleshing out?
That's the point. That's the point of Julia. If we want to like remain at this example, like I have watched the Netflix adaptation. It's just so bad. And like the worst thing is that I saw an article that was praising like what they have done to Julia, and it's horrible. So basically, like Julia is like part of every single episode, and that's a problem.
Well, Julia has always been that sort of unknown, super mysterious, attractive goal of Spike's.
Yeah.
His past, we don't need to know why. We don't need to know their inherent, like what kind of relationship, where they're going to have kids, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to know all those dumb details. We just need to know she's very important to Spike, she's gorgeous, and she's deadly. That's about it.
We know Julia through Spike for the most part, the way he sees her, and that's all that matters really for the story.
The way she dies is not unexpected. It's tragic. It's poetic, and they treated it as such. It's like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. But at the same time, they're in a shootout. That could totally happen. What's going to happen next? Is Spike going to go into revenge mode? What's happening here? What's he going to do? He just lost the woman he loved again. Does he care? Is he going to cry about it? Is he going to start bitching to Vicious while he's trying to kill him? No. We know exactly what Spike's going to do. At that point, it's like episode 25, I think. It's so clear what is going on in this scenario. Remember the scene where they're in Anastasia's shop and Spike is just loading the shotgun and Julia's like, why are you doing that? We don't need that to run away. And he's like, he keeps loading the shotgun. I wonder what Spike wants to do here. You see, he's not fully committed to just running away. Yeah, he's going to run away, but he's also going to kill everyone around him.
Oh, Lollipop, Lord of Gisugao, in the chat, who apparently recommended this video to us, says Julia is the noir woman of mystery, a staple of the genre. That's the whole point.
It's this great scene where Julia and Faye meet, and Faye goes back and describes to Jet, because Jet's asked, what's she like? And she describes her as an angelic devil or maybe a devilish angel. It's not clear exactly what kind of person Julia is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Lollipop finishes up with, this part of the story if you've watched Noir. What's interesting is what happens afterwards. And I think that nails it. This is also something that this guy seems to miss, that this is a noir story in space.
Yeah, for the most part, it is a noir story. Obviously, it leans heavier with Jet in certain parts, and there's definitely a lot of dark episodes, but then it cranks up with Spike and his past. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go for another 30 seconds because this guy is just like...
Oh, Mark has a blackout.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay,
What
well,
a pity.
no worries. We'll continue on after 30 seconds, and we'll just finish there to bring Mark back, because I'm sure he has lots to say. So...
in context to their stories. Spike was a member of a criminal syndicate for a long time, making enemies and allies until finally falling in love with a woman named Julia and deciding to fake his and her own death to finally escape living as an outlaw. Jet was a private investigator with a strong moral compass. At some point along the way, he carried a relationship with a girl named Alyssa until one day she just left him. Further, due to his distaste for the police force's corruption, he resigned and became a bounty hunter, where he would later be confronted with his past. Edward spent some time at a convent and also has a dad.
Ein is a cute little doggo.
What's the problem with these setups? And you had the main guys are both noir stories.
Does he want
classic ones?
Does he want the dog to have a backstory? Like, what does he want? Does he want Ein to have this massive setup where he's a puppy and then he grows up and he saves a dog from a train or something? Like, what is he? What's the problem? I don't get it. Ein is not really much of a character anyway. I wouldn't even go that far, but...
Oh my god. Lollipop just informs in the chat that up to 7 minutes, that's where we just got to, he's literally just reading from the wiki. He admits so twice later on. Oh my god.
Yeah, okay.
You couldn't even come up with a description of these characters yourself.
Yeah, let's just.
I'm questioning whether you actually watched it.
Yeah, let's just stop here. If we don't have Mark, he'll probably have a lot to say at that point. Guys, if you haven't watched Bebop, go out and do it. Watch the first episode. Yes. And we'll continue on this tomorrow, the day after, Saturday, whenever we're all back, because this is near and dear to our hearts. We love Bebop for many reasons, and this guy is... It's like he's in the middle of the forest. He's like, what is forests? What are forests?
What is it? What is tree?
What does grass do? Like what? I think grass is better outside forest thing. And you're like, what? Why? How? What are you talking about?
And everyone else who has watched Bebop, watch Black Lagoon.
Sure.
Because you need to catch up.
That's a good comparison, yeah. All right, so that was an hour and 40 minutes. Not bad, considering we went pretty good with Mark until he got cut off. But yeah, I'll go take a break and, geez, go watch some anime music videos from Bebop. Just how awesome they are, because even today they're great. But even the music by itself is great. So buy the music. Like, there's so much about Bebop I love. The music alone is so exceptional.
Yeah.
And I think I bought almost all the albums the year of, so I don't know where they're lying around. But
how many?
They have at least 6.
What?
They have this one.
But that goes beyond the soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. They do.
You mean of the band that made the song?
Yeah, then they re-released a bunch of songs, and they had a live performance once. Like, it was a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we finish this tomorrow when Mark's back.
We can do it tomorrow whenever you're ready. I think we'd love to have you back, Whisp. I think it'd be great, because I think you like this topic too.
This is rather chill compared to other times.
Yeah, this guy is not hurting our brain because he's annoying to watch. He's just sort of, oh, that's not a good take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. We'll try to get back to our original programming when we're done this video. We may as well have game night every Saturday. I don't know. Depending on what game we're going to play, I don't know yet. But we might have a break tomorrow. We don't know. And we'll find out Friday what we're doing then. So, thanks for listening. Have yourself a great evening. We'll talk to you real soon.